Greetings. Thank you each for being present today. My name's Philip Daniel Miles, and I am very grateful to be with world famous syncretist and fantastic astrotheologist. Thank you, Santos, for being with us, Santos Bonacci.
Yeah, thanks, Philip. Pleasure to be with you again.
Yeah, I'm very grateful for this connection. We're here in the third sign of spring, which is mutable air, Gemini. So we're moving towards the summer and we're just wrapping things up in spring. Like Gemini is the energy of the birds and the bees, being able to spread the message, the pollen, being able to see what changes as the message actually gets from port A to port B and circulated all around the garden and into all that we see. And without going into any poetry here, I'm just very pleased that you're able to reflect the wisdom of the archetype of Gemini with us today, Santos.
Yeah, thank you, brother. I'll give it my best go.
Have you got any personal natal positions in the sign of Gemini?
Yep, it's my MC.
Ah, so you're mid-heaven.
Yeah.
So you feel that you can really see both sides of the coin with regards to the overall arcing structure of the world, you could say.
Well, it's Gemini in the MC. I'll read something from an ancient astrologer called Firmicus Maternus in a minute about what Gemini in the MC portends. But I can tell you that it indicates two career paths. So that would sum up what I've done and been doing all my life. I'm probably known for two things. My music, of course. I've sold 100,000 CDs.
Very good. And congratulations. I think it's deserving. And you are a fantastic musician.
Thank you, brother. So 100,000 CDs, many of those get copied, and I've sold thousands and thousands of digital tunes of my music on iTunes, CD Baby, etc., etc. So probably, a few 100,000 people know me for my music and not at all for my syncretism. So Gemini is that kind of frequency in the MC. It gives you a two-ness. So the people who know me for my syncretism, a lot of them don't even know my music. 1 minute.
That's cool.
Hang on.
That's really interesting. Personally, I have Gemini in my ninth house, and I have the asteroid Chiron, the centaur, which is the maverick and the wounded healer. And so I can experience how I can heal my philosophy. I love teaching, and it's very healing. I have Gemini. I have Chiron in Gemini in my ninth house. And so that's my position. For me, it's the opportunity to, I feel, for healing and expanding and broadening, but also it can be that it's isolating when you learn more and more and more with things like astrology, right? Because you really want to connect on a level with other people who are on a similar gauge of experiential knowledge, right? Like how I love talking to you, because I actually get really great conversation. And so you were talking about how you have two different sides of the coin with regards to your line of work. People who know you as a syncretist may not know of your music, and vice versa. My question to you is, do you use your astrology knowledge in your songwriting? Or in your performance playing, in the way that you go up and down the octaves, in the way that you would write a piece?
Well, I guess that is in the form of the song. The song is, every song that is, begins in Aries and ends in Pisces. So what that means is a song begins in its essence. Aries is the essence, I am. So its qualities and characteristics are all in that first part of the sound wave. The second part of the sound wave is Taurus, and that gives the song structure. And so now you are creating a pattern, rhythmic pattern in your music. That's Taurus. Aries is the inspiration and the first note that sets the tone, the key of the song. And then the rhythm is immediately Taurus. Then Gemini kicks in, it's the thinking. And so you start to say something, you open your mouth and you release your first verse.
So when we're thinking, we're using two sides of the brain, and it's like ruminating. We go from this to that, to this to that, to this to that, to this, and then you can get that the rhythm. It's catchy, as you say. It's the kind of the lyrics kind of come.
Yes, exactly, and that's Gemini, the thinking, the philosophy behind the song. And then Cancer, emotion. Now you're starting to feel the emotion. Once you hear what the singer is talking about, Cancer kicks in and you are feeling it. Leo kicks in, the purpose of the song is felt, the will, the intention in Leo. Virgo, further analysing the song, more lyrics. Libra, balancing the lyrics and getting adjusted to the meaning of the song. Scorpio, deepening the meaning further. Sagittarius, transforming the meaning. Capricorn, practically finishing its structure. Aquarius, thinking its thoughts. And then Pisces, finalising the emotions of the song and the last part of the lyrics so that it all makes sense. Every script, every legend, every cosmology, every song, all go by this pattern. So that's just the nature of any wave. Any wave starts in its source and in its essence. Therefore, every wave begins in Aries. That's how electromagnetic energy works, because that's what astrology is. It's the map of electromagnetics.
So when creating a song for the first time, and you may not have fully planned the song, if you're kind of inspirationally noodling, this term that I was taught at college when I was studying music, noodling, when you're just doing improvisation. If you start with something really dramatic, or going up to a huge tempo, or coming up like this, then you know you've got to balance it out, because the wave has gone like that, and what goes up must come down. Correct?
Yep, exactly. That's how waves work. They have their peak, and they have their trough. So it's all about understanding the wave energy of this universe, the vibration, the electrical energy. And since we're talking about Gemini, to understand that portion of the ecliptic, we must understand thinking, the process of thinking and communicating the thoughts. That's where the wave contains that packet of energy and frequency. It stimulates the thinking. And so it is spatial, airy, gassy, gaseous. And that's why Gemini is like that. And it is mutable, because mutable means to mutate. Hence, Gemini turns up at the end of spring, mutating the spring into the summer. And so it is the sign of when the springtime is being destroyed and introduced to the summer, doubling the heat and increasing the sun's rise to the Tropic of Cancer, where it reaches its climax in its waxing 180 degrees, 187-day waxing cycle from Capricorn to Cancer.
So we had the new sun born on the winter solstice. And so the 30 days before the summer solstice is Gemini, where we're seeing the 30 days before the death of that sun. So it's like the culmination of what has been a waxing solar cycle, if you will.
Mm-hmm. Yes. And so now that when the sun hits the Tropic of Cancer in a couple of weeks, actually in 12 days, we're on the 9th of June here, that will be when things start to go in decline. And I foresee that the world's New World Order system will be in its full, or will start its decline into absolute oblivion, starting from the solstice.
It's going to be very interesting. I think that's a good way to feel into this, because the eclipse that we had on the birth of the sun, that new moon which we had on Christmas Day, Boxing Day, depending where you are, that was the first eclipse and new moon that we had in Capricorn, with Pluto, Saturn and Jupiter there, all in the same sign, for 735 years, since the year 1284, when we had a very similar couple of eclipses. And so that basically was when the Knights Templar set up the banking system, the banking cartel, really got a stronger grip, because they've always had a good reign, if you will. And so what we're seeing now is that they have attempted to make their grip a little bit more tight over the past 6 months. But this has been a bit of an opportunity for us all to awaken to the corruption and to see it fall and to see the demise and crumble. That's what you're saying is this prophesized kind of 0 point energy, which we're all awakening to right now. Would you say? Is that correct?
Mm-hmm. For sure, 100%.
And so we're going to have we're going to get back to Gemini in a moment, but we're going to actually have 2 new moons in Cancer at that time. The first of which is a total solar eclipse. And so I suppose we're going to talk about the Cancer energy next time around. But it's interesting to see how, as we are in this mutability of Gemini, how this is actually going to be playing out as we move towards the Great Conjunction, which is happening on the winter solstice, and there will be more eclipses then. So thank you for that insight there.
For sure. So what we can expect from Gemini is messages, communications, things to do with brothers. As we see now, the world is divided in rioting and protesting and brother against brother. We have the left against the right. We have all of this polarization.
Go on.
Go on.
So what is the word brother? If we actually, like, you're my brother, you know, you are a brother and kin. We are both beings in this human space, but we are also people who are devotees to unlocking our Christ consciousness more and more, so as we are able to kind of lessen ourselves from things that can take us away from that, which is i.e. a crummy diet or too much unhealthy, unsavory types of thoughts, you know. And so we work towards being clear on ourselves and sustaining ourselves and having a productive cycle, month in, month out, right? And so what we see is brother. If you drop the B, is other, just like mother. You drop the M, it's other. And Gemini is synonymous with a tarot card. I'm not going to go through all of them here. Called the Lovers. But again, drop the L and you got the others. Because originally, in ancient Marseille deck, which is older than the Rider-Waite deck, the card that represented Gemini wasn't the Lovers, it was the plural, lover. Because what we're experiencing here is our reflection in all things. It's our shadow that comes up for us in the polarity of Gemini. And so we can get the biggest challenges from all of the different things that are opposing to our set of beliefs. That's what I see Gemini to be like. And this is what we're seeing in the world right now, with all of these different conflicts of interest and all of these different lures and rabbit holes that are pulling us out of our own comfort zone. Would you suggest that this is an accurate description?
Yes, for sure. Division and multiplicity of messages, transactions, commerce, communications. We see a lot of internet work, people sending information about what's going on in the world. We see lots of fighting with brothers and sisters in families. Gemini is also about commerce. You see the stock market now just after Taurus, which was not a very good time for the stock market. Now you see it, supposedly it's rallying, and that's commerce, because Gemini is the time to commerce and transact. It's all about selling merchandise, Mercury, and communications. So a lot of humanitarian work as well. You see the protests supposedly have a humanitarian cause, justice, fairness, equality. And so that's what air signs bring. They bring that humanitarian element, consciousness, always consciousness. So there's going to be an expansion of consciousness as well, together with the division that Gemini generates. So in the end, we're going to have our thinking activated, and the eclipses are going to be portals which will be super activators through the sign of Gemini.
So we've got Rahu in Gemini at the moment, and it's a bit like we can't get enough information, and we can be just stuck just looking and researching these different things. So we will remember the most healthy thing that we can give ourselves at this time is a space of meditation to bring through a clarity of thought, because there can be so much thinking that actually the best thoughts are coming through when we come into obtaining a space of surrender and no thought whatsoever, right?
Yes, exactly. So in mutable signs, there is always advancement in the terms of destroying the old and creating the basis for the new. They are the signs of transmutation. The cardinal signs are the signs of initiation. The fixed signs are the times of further consolidation and work and labor. And then the mutable signs are for destroying unnecessary things, making the way for new. So that's what's happening right now. And I imagine many forms of communications, media, information is all going to be transformed through Gemini. It's probably the most powerful Gemini we've had for a long time. I think this will be a significant month, and it will be the finishing of the cabal and the total destruction of their evil empire infrastructure, where they will be what's the word? They will be prevented from facilitating any more false psyops and deception of mankind, where there will be in Cancer, I believe Cancer will bring a revolution, as it does. July 4th is always revolutionary because of Cancer, because the sun is right above people's heads at midday
Right above my head.
in the northern hemisphere. So the sun has reached to bless them the most in Cancer. So when in Capricorn, the sun is low and distant, and then as it climbs over the northern hemisphere up to the Tropic of Cancer, that's where it begins its revolution. It's a revolution of waning.
Very interesting. Yeah, so going back to the other 180 degrees, back to where it was born.
Mm-hmm.
So you mentioned some really great, well, loads of great keywords. I'm going to pick up on commerce and commercial lure, and we're lured in by the signs, aren't we? Not the signs of the zodiac specifically, but all of the advertisements, all of the Nike, all of the Adidas, all of the Shell garage and oil distributors. And so the cabal, as you say, they have used signs to have us influenced, and it's all of these different informations, all of these different signs that have ruled the world. And signs are like this with Gemini. They're mercurial, different emotions, but put into a narrative like hieroglyphs, like iconographies. And so astrology is all about seeing the signs and the shapes of all sigils. And yet this world has been smothering us with different, what is secret society-based corporations that have kept a little bit sneered up until now. We've almost been a bit lulled to sleep into amnesia of all of these different signs.
Yep.
And so we're going to see a recycling of how we use signs and language eventually, I feel, because there's been a predominance of all of these things that have bombarded us. And yet that is the world that we're familiar with. That's the world we've been born into.
True. Yep. And unfortunately, because of the ignorance of electromagnetic energy, that is to say, astrology, people are not getting the most of their lives, and they're not optimizing because they're not riding their waves and they're not consolidating in their troughs in all of their cycles. So they hit their tops and bottoms at the wrong time. They disperse energy in the wrong areas, and they're not getting the results. Hence, people get depressed, suicidal, discouraged, deflated, and they never get anywhere, spinning their wheels in the same rut.
As an example then, this because I do this and I'm learning still, always learning. So I'm a Venus-ruled chap. I'm a Libra rising. And so Venus is now invisible. Can't see it because it's so close to the sun. It's retrograde in Gemini. And so for me, this is a good time of consolidation. This would be a good time for me to actually go within and check in with my own set of values, especially as it's in my ninth house, check in with the value of my teachings, check in with the people whose teachings I most value, like yourself, Santos, and also to see what other skill sets I can use to teach. Like for one of them, I've been picking up the guitar more because sometimes people don't want to, they're not captured by astrology, just like yourself. You're also a magician, quite rightly so. There's a Freudian slip for you. But what I mean is you're a musician. And so it can be magical how we can put across a message of love and consciousness through different creative lines like music. And so this is another way that we can use our lyrics, or use our creativity, use our message delivery. Because as you say, we're salesmen here, whether we're selling astrology or selling music, whether we're selling consciousness or whatever. So if I was to go to town on a Wednesday, which is Mercury's day, a market day, they'd be going, roll up, roll up, roll up, get your hot dogs, get your hot dogs. And I'm like, please will you stop selling meat in my face in my town? Because they're merchants. They've got their chant. They're chanting for what they're selling. And so...
Good one.
Yeah, so if you were playing one of your guitars, or if you were playing, what kind of I know you'll hook someone with your catchy guitar, but have you ever added any kind of lyrics or kind of rhythmic kind of vocals which you would use as a chant to get people wrapped in, or was it all done through your talented fingers when you're playing your guitar?
No, it's instrumental, all instrumental.
You are very talented. Do you play like 7-string guitar as well, or even more?
No, just 6.
And you tune to 4/3/2 hertz?
Mostly, yeah. Mostly I do.
It's very cool. I did music at when I left school. I did music and was learning about recording. And so recording is the speakers, like the 2 ears. And so everything that we've got 2 of is very Gemini, right? We've got the 2 hands, we've got the 2 ears, we've got the 2 lungs. And so when we stop talking and we come into meditation and breath, we can hear a lot more, right?
Yes. And it's interesting that you use the word breath, because Gemini is about the breath. It rules the pulmonary respiratory system, one of 12 systems, each ruled by one sign of the zodiac. And so you've heard the expression winds of change. Well, that's what's going on right now in Gemini. Massive change. This is the sign when the changeover will happen. And Mercury will deliver that message, and then Mercury goes into retrograde. I forget when. Do you remember?
Oh, Mercury goes to retrograde just before the new moon. Mercury will retrograde in conjunct the star Sirius at 15 degrees of Cancer and go back to the beginning of Cancer, which is where this is taking place. So it's going to go retrograde for the whole of that eclipse cycle. Mercury is going to be retrograde.
In Cancer?
In Cancer.
When?
The 20th. Well, it goes retrograde about the 18th or the 20th of June, just a couple of days before the solstice.
Okay. You can almost take that to mean that Cancer being the economy, because of the moon and moony, money, and also June, where the Romans used to mint their coin in the temple of Juno, the consort of Jupiter. So Cancer is related to Jupiter and Juno. Jupiter exalts in Cancer, and Juno is the consort of Jupiter. Hence, Juno is all about mint, money, moony, Cancer. And Mercury retrograding in Cancer on the 18th, before the solstice, on the 21st, 3 days before the solstice, mark my word, there will be some news when he goes retrograde, and it will be to do with the economy. And the retrograde...
The muse.
News.
So the news or
news.
Okay, yes. News about the economy. And so this is all to do with regards the, we're seeing that maybe we're having a transition from the monarchy. We've had a false, illegitimate monarchy for 200 years here in Britain. And actually, the throne and the crown of Britain, the crown of England, actually rules the whole the whole monetary system of the world, right? And so now that we're having the new moon eclipse on the summer solstice, the death of the sun in the sign that is ruled by the moony, the money, the monetary system, which is actually meant to display the exchange rate, mercurial, as you say, Mercury retrograde in that Cancerian sign. It's meant to express the gold and the silver, which is just a token. It's just a something that we put our faith into just to display our riches, like your talent, like all of the different things which you're able to produce. You might be a great chef, Santos. I don't know, never heard you talk about the foods that you might be able to prepare. But we've already said that you're a great syncretist and a great musician. So you can trade those as a merchant. And what you would often do is have it in silver and gold coins that you would receive the the exchange of your worth. And so we did that in a monetary system. They even used to put gold and silver in those coins, and in those paper money, we used to have a little bit of aluminium as well, and all kinds of different watermarks that would give things credit. And yet we've less and less and lessened the credit because it's a fiat currency. Until now, it's worth pittance. Nothing like what it was. And there's no gold in the coin. They took that out a few decades ago. And so we're going to see that all of this is, which is all very well known. You say this to someone, they're like, this is nothing new. Very correct. But this is the time where it gets renewed because the system can't hack it anymore. Capricorn's bust. And so the sign opposite is saying, let's renew this, right? This is what your prediction is, that we're going to have a very, probably quite an arduous, slow process, but it's going to start to reboot on that summer solstice moving forward.
Yeah, for sure. For the system, it's not going to be very good at all because Cancer is opposite Capricorn, where Jupiter and Pluto are causing havoc in the political infrastructure of the world. So economically opposite, it's going to be a blow to the system. I imagine the cabal's flow of money is going to be sabotaged. It's going to be removed. And that will be the opposition of those planets in Capricorn, causing that economical havoc when that time comes. And Cancer is the sign of the bears. Ursa Major, Ursa Minor, and it is the sign of the beginning of the waxing portion of the solar year.
So the bears, they're stars, aren't they? And also it's the Goldilocks zone, like the three bears. It's the story of that. This is very interesting. Can you maybe tell us that story, like relate how that nursery rhyme relates to the cosmos there?
Well, first of all, just to finish, the bear market is the downturn of the market. The bull market, just before Gemini, a month ago, we had the bull. And the bull market is always waxing because Taurus is on the waxing side and Cancer is on the waning side. Hence, it will tend to wane and recede. And I don't think that will be for all of humanity. I think that will be for the controllers, I would say. Let's hope. But Goldilocks and the Three Bears, this is the sun on the ecliptic, because there's bears along the ecliptic which are actually the most significant stars of the sky. When you look at the star, you see Ursa Major, the Big Dipper, and Ursa Minor pointing to Polaris. So Goldilocks, and the other bear, of course, is Arcturus in Virgo, and they are next to each other. The red star Arcturus in Booty's Virgo is the third bear. So these are the bears on the waning side of the sun's cycle, which are the three golden Goldilockses, the three bears. There's a big one, I guess, a daddy bear and a mama bear in Cancer, and then there's a little child in Booties, right? And so every animal archetype, stereotype, motif of all scriptures and every other aspect and field of human endeavor, activity, and logos is always astrological. So regardless of the content of the nursery rhymes and fairy tales of all the earth, it's always the sun with its constellational helpers and planetary helpers. So Gemini is a sign also where the polarization of the good brother, Pollux, is contrasted with Castor, the brother who is cast down. And so you will see this, you will see an ethical kind of a mental transformation as we go through Gemini. You know, we went from the sign of illness, Taurus, where mostly it was all about coronavirus. Then Gemini kicks in, and all of a sudden we have brothers riding against each other and all kinds of humanitarian concerns being discussed and treated all over the net, and bringing justice to these New World Order types who have brought themselves to the great power, wielding great corporate power.
Would you suggest that actually now, in this Gemini phase, it's still a lot of just air? It's just a lot of chit-chatter, what can we do? But when we move into Cancer, that's really getting things off our chest. We're getting into how we can feel nurtured right now, and the Milky Way and all of this kind of thing. Because it's ruled by the breasts, right? And it's ruled by this energy of how we feel emotionally supported. And we really haven't been in a society that celebrates emotions. Normally emotions are looked at to be weak. Like, oh, look, they've gotten emotional. Got to take them away. Oh, why were you late for work? Oh, it wasn't my day. And it's looked at as weakness. But actually, for one to own their own emotions and be vulnerable and transparent is actually very strong, isn't it?
For sure. It is as long as those emotions are balanced and not noisy. So emotion in itself is obviously not good or evil, but they can cause either or. And so this is where Cancer is going to be very crucial this year, because it's the sign of foundation, the home. And I think we're going home. I think Cancer is going to be very motherly after this division of Gemini. And it's going to be comforting. And in a sense, we will be going into the portal after the June 21st solstice, and it'll be like going home. So, and it's also the sign of marriage and coming together, Cancer. So I think that many people will feel more connected with their families somehow, and their partners, whereas Gemini is bringing that to their attention. The culmination of it will be Cancer.
So it's like the solution, because it's a liquid, isn't it?
Yes.
And so things can't be, in a sense, resolved, but they can be certainly mixed up. A bit like this deck, you know. You can shuffle the deck and you can spin the yarn more and more and more and more. But as you say, you're not going to get to the salty salvation until we unlock those tears and allow them to flow. And you can taste that the Christ energy in the tear because it's salty. You can taste it. It's the same as the seed of the chrism. It's just got that salvation, and you be like, right, I know that I'm doing myself a service, and I know that I'm healing when I shed a tear. It's just like ejecting a layer of a story that has served us, and we can be grateful for feeling those the sanctuary. As I say, it's a bit like coming home when you shed a tear. It's like, oh my God, I've just taken that heavy bag off. It was breaking my back carrying that around.
Yep, spot on. Very, very true, brother.
So with Mercury and Gemini, we're seeing that it's actually language and flags. as well. So there's so many different flags which have covered the nations, which were put up to divide us, that we don't really pay attention to them now. But maybe if over the past 100 years, they've caused so much division. And also then the languages, which I really admire you for a lot, is because you know a handful of different languages, which add so much depth to the meaning of letters and the sounds, the harmonic frequency that comes through, the repertoire of pronunciation and expression through the mercurial ways. And so through the different languages, we've been divided again. And so this is, in a sense, there's a poor attempt, because the flag was really good, the language was really good. This year, it's a shambles, because we're more connected this year than ever.
Yes, for sure. And Gemini is also about community, neighborhood. And you will also see lots of people getting more community oriented. In the Republican conservative states in America now, the country people are walking around with their arms, and they are going to protect their shops, and they're not going to take any Antifa rioters bullshit. They're going to just deal with them. So again, Gemini has brought solidarity, fraternity, brotherhood, community, networks, neighborhoods, more to the forefront. And that's the energy, the thinking type of energy of Gemini. That's how Gemini translates onto the theatre of the earth.
So Gemini, for me, also represents when Mercury's traveling in front of the sun, because it's collecting loads of information. It's like, I can gobble up all of this information. And whereas when Mercury's traveling behind the sun, that's more Virgo. It's more the hermit. What am I going to do? I've got all this information. I've got all this information. So when Mercury is traveling in front of the sun, as it is in a mercurial kind of format, I have, in these past few weeks, been connecting to people in my local vicinity. Like, there's been lots more people obviously not working. So I've been connecting to some of the elders who've been walking around the gardens where I'll drink my coffee. And I've been checking in, saying, how are you doing? How do you do? Trying to help them seem less fear, trying to break down the atmosphere, because there's lots of people who are, some people wearing masks and things like that and keeping themselves to themselves. But through the conversation, Mercury, through the bridge that's built, we're able to have a greater connection. And so we can find that this establishing a bridge is very mercurial, right? This is what it's all about. And this is the original bridge. It's the bridge above our nose.
Yeah, so you'll see a lot of that going on. For instance, we've got black people and white people now. All of a sudden, it's the main issue since Gemini began. So that's indicative of Gemini, because some are considered to be marginal or minorities, and the others seemingly are not minorities somehow. So again, the war of the brothers, the consciousness, the humanitarian consciousness of the brothers, Gemini is bringing that to the fore. And also with that, you'll see that many of these brothers identify with the left and the right. Red shift, the right, and blue shift, the left, Democrats, red, Republicans. And so this is the kind of friction, mental friction, that will transpire and manifest.
So when we that's
all.
When we've got, like, for instance, what you're displaying, what you're expressing here, it's like two different sides of a party. When they're coming to rub up against each other, it creates friction. So just like our two hands, or the two left and right hemispheres of the brain, imagine them trying to have a conversation together. Our brain just getting more and more warm, just like a circuit board. It's going to combust. It's going to go boom. And so what we really want to do, as I say, is come into the meditation, come into harmony, come into unity. Because I'm seeing that the classic phrase for a Gemini would be to say that there's two sides to a coin. There's a penny. And so you could say that we see you've got heads, or we've got tails, two sides of a coin. But when we see that Mercury is thrice great, when we be the coin and we can see that there is the left, there is the right, we are the Trinity. We are whole. We're not divided. So how do we become the bank? How do we become the treasury? Because if we've been living under a monarchy, then that's been a separation between us and the actual true currency, which is actually timeless, golden, the golden age. How can we create a golden age where we are the treasury, where we are the bankers here?
Through consciousness, and that is being activated now in Gemini, and that'll sort itself out in Cancer. I'm pretty sure that all the things that must transpire and come to pass with the New World Order self-destroying itself will compress itself in these next two signs. And it will blow over very, very quickly. Because the reason is that all the planets are currently within about 170 degrees along the ecliptic, all going from Capricorn to Cancer. So you have 10 planets climbing up from Capricorn up to Cancer. Once the sun hits the solstice on the top, everything goes down, which was established in Capricorn in December when they started the planning for this, because they knew that they would have the momentum of all the waxing planets from Capricorn to Cancer. Once the sun hits the 21st, it's downhill for them.
I've got a great analogy from what you're describing, from what I'm gathering. So when for a sports person, they've got to tee up their perfect shot, whatever it is, whatever sport it might be. And so you've got to put your best kind of effort, your best kind of whammy on it, get a good bit of welly on it so that you can get all of the length, all of the sustainability of the project so it lasts. And so they've had, exactly as you said, we have all had, exactly as you have said, since the birth of the sun on the winter solstice, the opportunity to put enough velocity behind our projects to carry us forward. Myself, being a Capricorn born around that time, it works very nicely for me. And so this is the waning. Personally, as I would experience it every year, I put enough gusto by the summer solstice that actually I'm becoming more conscious of my efforts on that second 6 months of my personal solar cycle. And so what we're seeing in the actual sun as it's going through this experience, as you said, with the quarantining, if you will, of all of the other planets and one half of the zodiac, slowly they're going to follow. They're going to follow and they're going to wane, just like the sun, through the whole other 360 degrees until it reaches its entirety this winter, correct? That's what you just described.
Exactly.
And so everything's it's like what we would say as Saturnian phrase, it's the other shoe falling, the other foot falling. Very
Yes.
Interesting. Well, I looked that we do, as I said, we've got two new moons in Cancer once we get there. The first one is the eclipse, the solar eclipse. The second one is right at the end of Cancer at 27 or 28 degrees in an opposition to Saturn retrograde in its own sign of Capricorn. But Venus by that time would have made its ingress into Cancer and it's going to sextile Uranus in Venus's own sign of Taurus. That's a massive opening, isn't it? For the sextile between Venus and Uranus, both at 9 degrees. And it's going to be open up so much through a second Cancerian lunar cycle. I feel like it's almost hard to fathom what's just around the corner because we're really still in the trenches here in this mutability. And so we're going to be kind of shocked by having an eclipse on the solstice 4 hours after. So I suggest personally the best thing that we can do is tune into our own productivity, and in the sense, keep an eye on all of the things that are going on in the world stage. But really, it's our personal work that's the most valuable right here. Would you agree, Santos?
Yes, absolutely. It's time to transmute thinking processes through Gemini. It's time to take stock of your humanitarian view. Time to take stock of how you think, improve your thinking.
So if we're thinking about things that make us feel like less than, you know, for instance, if I'd been chasing an interview with someone who didn't want to come for an interview, and I felt like completely disrespected and not valued by them, it's just for me to stop pursuing that. I shouldn't stop thinking about that. Or if I was to listening and thinking about a particular music or something like that, and that made me feel really heavy, man, it's for us to disengage with that line of thought and come into something which is more nice. Maybe walk in nature and think about that. Maybe do some gardening. When we actually learn something new, like I've been researching Walter Russell, which you recommended, Santos, because he does a very good explanation of light. And so when we bring in new information, we refresh ourselves from rattling through and ruminating with all of the dense rubbish that doesn't actually carry us forward into our own conscious awareness.
Yep, that's what Gemini does. Gemini is about transforming that thinking, elevating it from the lower mind to the higher mind, the left brain to the right brain. Pollux represents the right brain. Castor is the left brain, cast down and thinking in a logical, linear way, whereas Pollux is heavenly and divine and magnetic and non-linear. So this will happen without people even being aware of it. It will happen. How many people were aware that George Floyd was killed 2 days after Gemini began, or 3 days, on the 25th of May? Just to highlight the twin brothers, the blacks and the whites, and other minorities, and carry it through till all the way up till the 18th, when Mercury will bring a new message. So 9 more days of this rubbish about all these hypocrites saying how they're concerned about black lives that matter, and we're going to, defend the rights of minorities. That's a whole bunch of bullshit. In society in general, that's a no-brainer. That's happening. That's second nature. It's only from top down that any kind of brotherly hate and racism is generated. So we need to watch that and deal with the controllers and their power over us and their control over us. And that will be happening in the next 9 days.
I very much agree with you. It's good to be extra scrutinizing the discerning with that which we lend our attention to or join up, like foolhardy. Like, for instance, if I was to change my slogan or change my profile picture just because of this or that, that can suddenly mean that we've just been ferried to some kind of expression which is actually inauthentic from ourselves, disconnecting us from our true uniqueness and our origins, because ourselves is the original. We are the source. And anything that gets in between us, any clan separates us, is taking away our own expression, which is completely uniquely ours. So this is very powerful. I would like to ask you one more thing about commerce with regards to walking on water, Santos. And so the breadline, the watermark that we find in money, is this feeling heavy, man, feeling depressed, feeling that we're sunk and immersed down into debt. That's commerce. This is the world the world is based on, right? This is what the banking cartel is based on. And what we have the opportunity to do. It may not be that we owe the bank any money, but we may feel indebted because we've got guilt or shame, or we feel that we've been told that we're ugly and we've bought into that ugliness, and that makes us feel that we're beneath the watermark. And so this is really when it comes to loving ourselves and letting go of these false delusions and heavy weights and shackles, which are all belief systems and manipulations, aren't they?
Absolutely. Yes. All of that is being transformed. The eclipses are going to bring about great blessings for humanity, especially the awakened portion. And I believe great blessings for humanity in general.
We don't have to go rioting. We don't have to go protesting. If you feel called to, you do what you feel called to. But really, I feel that the greatest calling is to come within, to create art, to search our spiritual quest. Astrology could be that for you. It could be that you just want to learn a different language. I would love actually to spend some time learning a bit of Spanish, a bit of Italian, and so that I can fluff out and fruit out my vocabulary and learn the poignancy in each of the iconographies of the letters more so. That's a valuable use of time right now. How are you going to be utilizing your time apart from doing interviews like this, Santos? Have you got any projects on the go?
Yeah, lots. I'm doing 3 weekly classes of astrology and syncretism here in Mexico. I do a lot of researching, a lot of health protocols to keep myself healthy. I'm very busy. Tomorrow I'm moving house.
Oh yeah?
Just up the road. I need to move out of here. And pretty soon I'll be doing some traveling in Mexico.
That's really cool. I'm actually excited to see the airlines open up, maybe have some more travel about on the cards. Personally, I would love to see... Excuse me?
When is that? Do you know?
I know that actually some people were able to travel from Barcelona to the UK recently. So the airlines are open if you make the opportunity for yourself and go for it without fear. I think it's available now. But right. As you say, I think actually the official date is the 15th of July, which is around a month from now, on the Capricorn partial lunar eclipse, which will be the culmination of the next siege zone on the solstice. And so we shall see. I think you can actually travel now. All you have to do is actually make the effort and go. You'll probably get it really cheap. It's just having to go through the palaver of traveling with a mask and all that kind of thing.
Okay, brother. Well, I'd like to finish off with the quote I was going to read for you about the MC in Gemini.
That'd be brilliant. Thank you.
So Firmicus Maternus says, the MC in Gemini indicates an income from public or sacred occupations, but only at the threshold of age. The native will be a cultivator of the gods and religious rites, obeyed by a large number of citizens, a seeker after hidden things, knowledgeable in many skills and systems. In the last age of life, he will be pointed out for his upright and correct life. So that's my MC. And my rising sign, Leo, is such. I just want to throw that in.
Say again? Such.
Yeah, is, as I'm going to say in a minute.
Well, because you've got your rising sign is Leo and you are an Aries, your chart is ruled by the sun, which is exalted in Aries, which is very nice. And it's exalted in the 9th house, whole house sign. So it's actually that you were born in the day chart. The sun's in a lovely position. Very nice, Santos.
Mm-hmm. So the ascendant in Leo is thus. Ascendants in Gemini, the natives, ascendant in Cancer and ascendant in Leo. Many toils and dangers are indicated by the ascendant in Leo, but great fame throughout life. The native will be freeborn, have unlimited power, and never use his power for evil. He will secure his possessions by his own efforts and attain power of command. So that's my basic nature, MC in Gemini and rising sign in Leo.
Jack of two passionate creative trades, which you can own because you love them and you love the way that they make you feel. When you're doing your syncretism, you love how it makes you feel. When you're doing your music, you love how it makes other people feel and you get the feedback loop. That's what it's about, isn't it? It's about the feedback between Mercury traveling sometimes in front of us, sometimes behind us, because we are Mercury, we're a magician and we're alchemists, we're hermeticists. And so Mercury plays many roles. Thrice great, the singularity being the most important. Thank you, Santos. This is a crowning moment of our consciousness.
Mm-hmm.
I see that Mercury, Venus, Uranus, Saturn, they all represent the tear of Ra inside of us, which is the pineal gland, the first eye. And so we're all awakening to this right now. And it's your great work with syncretism and your continued contributions that have made this very thriving movement. Thank you for all of your work.
Thank you, Philip. We'll see you next time when Cancer comes along. Take care.